Here's the math message for lesson 8-1. So I'm going to read it all the way through, and then I'm going to go through how to make sense of this problem because they are asking you to do a lot of different things. So it says 4th grade students from 2 elementary schools, Dayton and Cleveland, are participating in a 2-mile race at a local park. Once the students arrive, they are split into 4 equal groups. So I'm going to stop there and I'm going to highlight this because it's important to know that they're in 4 equal groups, both schools together. Each group starts the race at different times, so they are not too many students running in the same part of the race course at the same time. So I like to call that fluff information. They give you like an extra sentence of description, but it doesn't mean anything in terms of the mathematical computation that you need to do. We call that a fluff statement. So Dayton Schools brings 3 4th grade classes with 32 students in each class. Cleveland School brings 4 4th grade classes with 27 students in each. How many students are in each group? So I'm going to actually change the color of my highlighter, and I'm going to highlight this last sentence because that's telling us what do we need to know. So that's the first thing I ask myself when I'm doing a multi-step number story. What are they asking? They're asking for how many students are in each group, because remember, they need 4 equal groups. So they're taking all the 4th grade classes from each school and they're splitting them up into 4 groups. So what do I need to solve this information? Well, I need to know how many kids they're splitting up into those 4 groups. So how do I do that? Well, the first thing I need to know is figuring out how many students come from each school, and then I'm going to add those together. So do you notice how I started with what is my end goal? And then I worked backwards on how to get there. So I figured out I need to know how many students are coming to the race from Dayton and Cleveland, and I have to add those together. But before I can do that, I have to figure out how many kids came from each school, because they don't really tell us. They just say 3 4th grade classes with 32 students in each. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. My step 1 is going to be figuring out how many kids, number of students came from Dayton. And they told us that it's 3 4th grade classes with 32 students in each. So what I would do is I would take 32, because there's 32 kids in each class, and there's 3 classes, so 3 groups of 32 kids. So I'd do multiplication. So I know that 3 times 2 is 6, and 3 times 9 is 96. So now I know that there is 96 kids from Dayton coming to this race. I'm going to do the same thing. Step 2 is going to be figuring out how many students came from Cleveland. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to see it says 4 4th grade classes with 27 students in each. So if there's 27 students in each class and there's 4 classes, so 4 groups of 27, I know that 7 times 4 is 28. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 108. So that's how many students came from Cleveland. So now what do I do with those 2 numbers? I need to figure out how many total students are we putting into those 4 groups. So we have to add those together. So step 3 is to add to find the total number of students. So I'm going to take 108 plus 96. I know that 8 plus 6 is 14. 9 plus 1 is 10. 1 plus 1 is 2. So there are 204 students total that are going to participate in this 2-mile race at the park. Okay, so now that I know how many students came from Dayton, how many students came from Cleveland, and I added together to find the total number of students, now I can put them into those 4 equal groups. So first we did multiplication, then we did addition, now we're doing division, all for the same word problem. So that's why it really helps when I outline the different steps to make sure you don't miss anything. So step number 4 is divide the total number of students into 4 equal, I'm going to underline equal, groups. Because they have to be equal. So we know that 204 is a multiple of 4. So I already know when I divide, I'm going to get an equal number. If you didn't get a multiple of 4, that means you did something wrong in your multiplication and your addition. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit because I'm running out of room here. So I'm going to take that 204 and I'm going to divide it by 4 to make the 4 equal groups. I'm going to do partial quotient here. You can do traditional division. It's up to you, whatever one you're more comfortable with. So I'm going to draw my little bar. I know that 4 times 5 would give me 20. So 4 times 50 will get me close to 204. It'll get me to 200. And I'm left with 4. And I know 4 times 1 is 4. And I have no remainder. And my answer is 51. So now I can solve. And I'm going to change my color to green to keep it consistent with how I highlighted the problem. Now I can solve. There are 51 students in each group. There is my answer. Okay, I'm going to do more multi-step problems where we're doing different operations, so including subtraction, division, multiplication, and addition in the next video, and then I'll go through the journal pages.